So let's talk 3G charging problems. Now, this is notorious on 94 and 95 Mustangs. So this video is specifically for 94 and 95. So 3G wire basically has 3 wires on it, plus your alternator charging wire. You got a stator, which is this yellow one. You got the stator one right here. And you got a green and a yellow one that comes off it, plus the main charging one. If you have a default configuration, it's going to go to your starter solenoid. So it's not uncommon that these alternators go bad, but when these alternators go bad, they have a tendency to just stop charging. You'll replace the alternator, and then your panel will start going dim. Your voltage will show low, and you'll get the charging indicator light. Again, it's totally normal. And I've had to do this on every 94 and 95 Mustang I've owned, or I've had problems and had to troubleshoot it. First thing, the green wire does nothing but go to the indicator light showing that you're having a low voltage problem. So unless you're having an indicator light where the voltage is showing fine, but you're still getting the low voltage, if the voltage is in the middle, a bit past the middle, then you would look at the green wire. Otherwise, the green wire is not going to be what is causing your problems. The second thing, the stock wire is like this weird 2-wire thing that goes into one. It's got fusible links in there. So if those fusible links go, your charging system will not run. So not common that you got to replace that wire. In fact, my recommendation is if you still got the stock wiring, I would go and buy a wiring kit and run a new wire. There's a good chance that fusible link is bad. The other common problem is the yellow wire. The yellow wire, what it does is send a signal back to the alternator so it runs charging. That yellow wire is in this fuse box, and I'll show a video real quick on that. Your fuse right here in the fuse box, if you count 5 down, 1, 2, 3, there's a 20 amp fuse here, and this is your yellow wire fuse. And I'll explain more about this. So again, there's fuse in your fuse box in your engine bay. The 20 amp right here, which is 5 down from the top, 4 from the bottom, is the fuse you will need to check. Your 5th fuse down inside this box. If that 20 amp fuse blows, then you will have to check that. Once that blows, your alternator will not work until you replace that fuse. Now, I've seen the fuse blow and you replace the fuse, it starts charging again. Then it'll blow again. Generally, if you're having that problem, the yellow wire will get fragile, and because where it's lying gets too hot, and then you start to have problems with it. So, that is not uncommon. It'll just keep blowing and blowing. Or if you check it and it's not blown, the wire is probably broken somewhere in the line. I think what Ford was thinking is this just doesn't have your car charged if it's too much amperage coming off the main accessories or something. My guess is the fuse blows and it stops charging, so you don't start the car on fire or something like that. That's my guess with that. So I don't keep it that way, and I don't like that design. I run a single wire straight to the battery from the alternator. The stock alternator is 130 amps, so they're stout for the car. So I run straight to the battery. When I replace the harness, I don't put it back to the starter, and then I run the yellow wire to the starter. I do not use the one that runs back to this fuse. When you do that, you have to put a fuse link from the wire going from the alternator to the battery. So always run a fuse. Make sure you're running the right amp. A lot of them sell a 175 amp in these fuse link kits. You do not, this is 130, so you'd run a 150 If you have a 150, you run a 175. And there's a different fuse, or fusible link, they call it, for every car, or for every, depending on how much amps you're running from your alternator. You know, 150 if you're running the stock 130. So I have a 150 in this because I'm running the 130. So I have a fusible link. Yellow wire goes to the starter solenoid. The green wire is still working fine. It only works when there's low voltage. The reason I know that works because I had a lot of low voltage problems with this car to the point where it dimmed and it wasn't charging at all. So if you're, again, having charging problems, if you're troubleshooting, the first thing that you should do is check the fuse. Make sure the fuse is not blown if your system is not charging. Check that fuse. If it's blown, replace it, see if that solves your problem. And if it doesn't solve your problem, the other thing you can do is check all the wiring. Make sure the wirings, you don't have any broken wires or anything. The other thing to do is you could unwrap the harness, splice the yellow wire, and just hook it up to your positive terminal. If the system starts charging after that, then you probably have somewhere on the line the yellow wire is broken. There's these other connectors in there as well that could be broken. So, you know, if it starts charging, if it doesn't charge, then one of your fusible links in the actual power connector is probably out. Again, there's fusible links in there. If they go, and the wiring is not very good from the factory for this. Sorry, Ford, but it's just not. So then you can, you know, get a new wire and run it to the battery and see from the alternator. Again, that's this red wire here. It's like a black color from the factory. You can see if that works, you know. The last thing would be the alternator itself. Now, there's lots of good videos how to test. You can test from straight to ground and the alternator to see what it's pulling when it's running. Here's the deal, though. The alternator has that module in the back that regulates power. It's built in the alternator. And the older cars used to have a separate power module. That doesn't give you an accurate test if it's not receiving the input on the yellow wire it needs. So it's not a really accurate test. So I've replaced alternators in all my cars, and it has never once been the problem. Now, doesn't mean that your situation won't be different, but every time it's been the wiring harness, to the point now where I wire all my cars the same, which is more like what they call a 1G wiring, is I put a fusible link, run a heavier gauge wire, go straight to the battery, and it has never let me down. Not once. And that to me is the best thing to do. If you're really going to have wiring problems, I'll put a link. There's an article someone wrote about, you know, the correct way to wire it. But again, by doing that, I never have problems again. It always ensures the system is charged, which is critical. And it also, by putting that fusible link, if for some reason the alternator is running too high, it's not relying on a 14 gauge wire to give it its input. It'll blow the fuse there. And then you're safe. You don't have to worry about the car melting down or anything like that. So fusible link, absolutely, no matter what, run a fusible link in your car. If you replace the factory system, you need a fusible link. I've seen people do it without it, and it's dangerous. And you can get fusible links in this wiring cheap, painless. Wiring makes a kit that you can put in here, and with great instructions how to wire it. It's expensive if you can't afford that. You can buy some, 8-gauge wire, run it yourself, and just buy a 20-amp fusible link box and run it. Again, I thought I would go over that. I'll put some links up. I'll show the video of the fuse box and some other stuff, but keep in mind, green wire is just for the indicator. It's not going to be your problem unless the indicator light's just always on and the voltage is fine. Yellow wire is going to be your problem, or the fusible links in the original black-gray wire that runs to this from the alternator. If one of those fusible links go, you got to pull the whole wire out. You could, I guess, try to splice the wire, but you're really taking a risk at that point. You really do need to replace the wire. And with that, I highly recommend a 1G type wiring setup with a fusible link on any Mustang. It doesn't matter if it's an old Fox body, because I've done this same type of concept where I just wire straight to the battery with a fusible link. It always solves my problems, because electrical problems can leave you stranded on these cars.
So if you like this video, go ahead and smash the like button below. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell if you want some notifications. See you next time on Chasing Mustangs.
Thanks.
All right.
Great job.
Yeah. I see it like literally every day.